Hi friends, this is Leela. Welcome to my channel Leela WebDev. So in the previous video, we have learned about the promises concept. So what is the promises and how promises work and all those things we have discussed it. Now in this video, let's move on to the fetch API. So what is this fetch API? We have already discussed that fetch API is the easiest way to make the Ajax request. So previously we used to make if you want to make an Ajax request, we need to use the older version. That is nothing but XML HTTP request object. And also we have seen it. That XML HTTP request object is a constructor function. If you go to the console and if you see here XML HTTP request. So if you try to see this one, so we cannot call it like this as this one is a constructor function. If you try to call it like this, now we are able to get it. But fetch is not a constructor function. It is directly like this we can call it. Okay, so this is one thing. And also another thing what I want to tell you is the fetch comes from the fetch API. It is not a JavaScript inbuilt one. It is provided by the browser. So fetch API, you have a separate thing like fetch API, and using this fetch API we used to make an Ajax calls. So now another thing what we need to remember is the Ajax returns the fetch API returns the promises. So here the fetch will return the promise. What is the promise and all those things, how we can resolve the promise and all those things we have discussed. So now the syntax for this fetch is, for example, let's say that if you try to call anything, so fetch of some random URL, let's say that fetch of HTTP some random URL. If I'm trying to make it, the fetch spelling is wrong. If I am trying to make this one, so we are able to get that something is promise, and in this one we are able to get pending. Okay, so promise and it is in the pending state. So that means it has made a call to that some random URL and it is waiting for the response. So that is pending. Now I will show you that another thing. Like for example, let's say that this is our API. Let's try to call it. Here I will be using let data is equal to fetch. I will be calling. And immediately I will try to do console.log of data. If you try to see here, the variable data is in the promise pending state. So we are able to see that the data which we are trying to see, it is a pending state. That means the data, it doesn't have any data. It has a promise which is in a pending state. Now that means we have created a request. So that means we have sent a request. Now I think the response request will be completed. The response has been written to this one. So will the data variable has the data in it? Let's try to see. Now if I try to print the data variable, see, you'll be able to see that promise has been fulfilled and you got a response object also. So now if you try to see, the promise has been fulfilled and in this promise you'll be having some data. So that means we got the promise. So now promise has been success and we need to catch the response. Now when this promise has been converted from the pending state to the resolved state, so we cannot estimate the time for that one. It may take 1 second or immediately the promise can be resolved. So it may take some 5 minutes or something like that. So we cannot know that when this promise can be resolved. So after resolving the promise only, we can call the data variable and we can we can take the response and we can show it in the UI. So, but we don't know. Okay, so we cannot use the set time mode to call after 5 seconds or something like that. Maybe the promise can be resolved within 1 second only. But you are writing after 5 seconds, take the variable. So take the data. So maybe the data is not received within the 5 seconds. So like this the problem has. So in order to overcome that one, the promises has the thing that is nothing but then. So by using the then, we can then it takes the callback. So that then callback will be executed when this promise has been resolved. If there is any error or anything means you have a catch. So now let's try to see. I am writing here the fetch thing. So here is the promise. So I am taking the let, or otherwise I can directly call fetch, or we can copy paste fetch dot then. Okay, I got the response and we'll try to do console.log of response. Okay, let's try to see what is the response. Now here what I am trying to write here, I'm having a fetch request, I'm calling the fetch and this is the URL which I am trying to make an Ajax call. And after this promise, so this one will have a promise in the pending state, or otherwise let's say that let data is equal to We will remove this one all. So we got the fetch, and let's console this data. So we know that it returns, fetch returns a promise which is in a pending state. If I try to refresh this page, now we got the promise which is in a pending state. Now what I want to do here, I want to get the data back. Okay, get the data. So when this fetch is resolved, so what I can do here, go here, or otherwise request or something like this. Okay, to do's request. Let's take to do's request. So to do's request. Now what I can do, to do's request dot then. So when this one is resolved, so I will get the response. We know that we will get the response from the server, and let's take the response and let's console it, and we'll see what could be the response here. If you see the output, if I refresh this page, see we got the response which is of type response object. So this is the response object. If you try to see, this is an object of response, and in this one we will be having, and here you will be able to see there are some properties available in this response object. And if you try to see XML HTTP request object has so many of properties. It's something like, you can say, subset, a smaller version of the request object. Here we are having body use, headers, something like this. Okay, now if you try to see, here we have a body. If you try to open this body is nothing but the response. So what we have got it. So if I try to see here, we can able to see that it is of type readable stream. So what is this readable stream? So now if I try to if I want to print the data, so can I able to print this data? So let's see, response.body. So this is the data, right? Actual data. If I see this one, I'm not able to get it. So here I'm able to get this one as a readable stream. So what is this readable stream? We'll try to see afterwards. So now here we are not able to get the body. Let's remove it and see what else data is there. And here we are able to see headers data. So it is of type headers, and we are having some methods. So that means what are the response headers that has been written from the server. So if I want to check these headers, let's see response.headers. So if I try to print here, I am able to get this method, and there are some prototype methods which are available here. So append, delete. So if you want to do add anything, so here we are able to see one get method. So let's try to call this get method so that we can get the headers. So if I try to see here, now here if we try to see, we are not able to get it. So why? Because get requires at least one argument. So that means we need to give the what is the header type you want, and it will give you the header value. So header name we need to give it. Let's say I want to give what is the content type it is going to be written. We know that it is an application/JSON data. If you see here, we are able to see application JSON, and it is of type universal format, UTF-8. We got the application JSON format, perfect. But if I want to see all the headers that are sent by the server, I want to check all the headers. So for that reason, what I can do is, so here I can use the method array.from, and you can remove this one all, and it will give you the all the headers. Actually this one is a header object, right? You can use this array.from. I told you, right, this array needs the length object. If you try to see this one, maybe this headers thing. Okay, if you try to see this headers thing, okay, so these headers should have it will the what I can say is, so this one will take the string value, string thing which has an arrays type of thing, and it will convert it into an array. So now if you try to see this one, and if I see here, see we are able to get all the arrays. So if you try to see here, so cache control and content type, expires, pragma no cache. So these are the response headers that have been sent by the server. So like this we can see the response headers. Then what about the body? If I try to see response.body, will I able to get it? So now if I try to see here, we are not able to get it. It's getting a empty data. Okay, so what is this empty data, and how we can get the body? So we understood about the headers. So how we can get the data, how we can get the output from the fetch request. Why? Because so the data response.body which I am trying to check here, it is not the actual data. It is something like a readable stream return type. So what is this readable return stream? Readable stream, and how we can get the output from the readable stream? Let's try to see. Hope you understood about this fetch request. If you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.